Zidon Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. In today's video, we are going to be doing another Show It Some Love slash review. I don't really know what to call this video, because it's a bit special. Recently, I have finally found the first volume of Barrage, which is one of the earlier stories written by Kogi Horikoshi, the creator of one of my favorite series, and probably a majority of you's favorite series, My Hero Academia. Yes, Horikoshi gave us Barrage before he gave us My Hero Academia. And it's actually really interesting, to say the least, what exactly Barrage is. Because Barrage actually takes a lot of the aspects from other series that I have absolutely loved. First off, it is a rather short series, much like other series that I've talked about in the past, but this is only 2 volumes long, only having this one and the one that I don't have, which I do plan to get at some point, but I think that doing the review now is still the best option. But yeah, Barrage is honestly amazing. And the other aspect that I've come to love from basically a lot of some manga at least is that of taking an aspect from another source and kind of doing your own thing with it. For example, Snow White with the red hair. Snow White with the red hair is almost nothing like Snow White, but it takes 2 aspects. First off, the name, but also it takes the apple scene and puts that at the very beginning and then never uses it again and becomes kind of a completely new thing. And the same thing can be said about Barrage. But in this case, it is taking Mark Twain's The Prince and the Pauper and completely redoing that into space. Oh my gosh, that is actually really interesting. Now, like I said, even though it takes that little aspect of The Prince and the Pauper, Barrage is almost a completely different story. Like I said, it takes that little aspect and completely reworks it to make it something completely new. It's honestly a bit interesting, considering the fact that many creators, especially here in the United States and the likes, will, if they are going to take a book or some older story and retell it, as The Prince and the Pauper has been retold multiple times, they'll usually take the entire story and recreate it, sometimes in a new format, such as maybe in space, for example. I don't actually know if there is one for that, but shows like Barrage, or manga like Barrage, as well as Snow White with the red hair, take these stories in a completely different direction, using that little piece as the start, and then completely going in a completely different direction. Now, Barrage is the crown prince of this world, which, like I said, this is space. This is Space Prince of the Pauper. Now, Barrage, like I said, is the prince, and the main character is that of Astro, who takes up the role of being the pauper. And also, I do have to say, kind of interesting the way that they decided to handle him. Unlike the pauper, who, in the book, as well as many versions of the story, the Astro has no family whatsoever, except for the ones that he has chosen himself, taking in younger kids, which are all of these kids that you see on the corner, or down at the bottom here, and basically acting as a big brother for all of these kids, and taking care of them when they have no one else to do so. And it's honestly so adorable. And you can also see a lot of the... Just from reading this, you can see how many of these characters eventually evolved into the characters from My Hero Academia. I mean, freaking, this one with the hood looks like if they take that and the main character, it almost looks like Deku, which is kind of hilarious. And a lot of the others are as well similar. Not going to go over each of them, but there's a lot of other characters throughout this series that are honestly really similar to a lot of the other characters that we've seen within his other works, within My Hero. And it's honestly amazing. He took this aspect from one of his earlier stories, and completely redid it to tell a new story in that of My Hero. And it's heartwarming to see that. But like I was saying, Astro takes these kids in and has to work, gets abused, all this jazz. Stuff that you kind of would expect from a Prince and the Pauper story, to see what is going on with the Pauper. But he eventually runs into the prince, who happens to look exactly like him. By a complete chance, the two run into each other, and the prince and Prince Barrage offers Astro the thing that he's been needing for a while. A place where he can call home. A place where he and the kids can grow up and have a life. That is what he offers him. He offers him that in exchange. Barrage wants his freedom from all of that. Which, I'm just saying, Barrage is such a dick. I wish that I actually felt bad for him, but he dies in like the first few minutes after you meet him, which I don't feel bad for him, because as you see throughout the story, he is a dick. Being a complete asshole to his maid, to his family, having no respect for his family. While Astro is almost a complete opposite, caring so much about family that throughout the story, he would rather sacrifice himself for people, for families, than anything. That he will not let families be torn apart, and that is something so heartwarming to see. It's honestly amazing. And I'm really, really excited to see how things continue moving forward in the second volume. Sadly, it's probably not going to be for a while, but that I actually read that, but we'll see. Basically, though, there's only one other main character, that of his guard/teacher, who I'm forgetting what his name is. I think it's Tiamat, actually. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's his name. Yes, like the dragon. Yeah, that is his name. I remember that. And the king is a little bit involved, and the kids are a little bit involved, but most of that is pretty small amounts. Only having these characters show up for a brief amount of time, except for, well, Astro and Tiamat, who go off to have an adventure, trying to stop the entire world from being invaded by aliens, taking down aliens across the world, which, honestly, I am surprised that this only got 2 volumes, because this is something that I think could have made thousands of chapters, maybe. Quite a lot. The thing is that, as of right now, the way that things are looking, maybe he'll completely save the one kingdom that they're in by the end of the second volume. at most, and that's rushing things, mind you. But the goal is to save the world. Which brings up the question, why did this not continue? Well, I think the answer actually lies with My Hero Academia. I think that a lot of these series that we've seen so far from Kohi Horikoshi were a lot of test series. He got out things like Barrage and tried to get out some of his other series, but none of them were really sticking with him. He wasn't really certain on what exactly would be the perfect series that he would like to continue for many, many years to come. And maybe he thought, oh, Barrage, maybe it could go, but it didn't succeed enough. So, try something new. Multiple times he would try something, and eventually he would try My Hero Academia, which, in all honesty, has a pretty similar concept. Still taking something that already exists and completely redoing it to make it its own thing. I mean, sure, yes, it's a superhero thing, but it's different. It's kind of got its own way of going about things, and it's interesting, to say the least, what My Hero Academia has become just over these past few years. And honestly, I think that he probably did make the right decision, deciding to stop with Barrage as well as the other series that he was trying to figure out, and instead go in a different direction. Go with My Hero Academia. Because the story that he has told through My Hero has honestly been a story of honestly amazing proportions. Keep in mind, when he was talking about, he's mentioned in multiple volumes that he never thought that he would actually get to many of these points. When he reached the double digits, he was shocked. When he reached the double digits for volumes, he was shocked. When he made it to 100 chapters, he was shocked. Multiple times he has been shocked and honestly impressed. Multiple times over, and it kind of makes sense that he found something. Found that one series that would just work. And it did. And while obviously I personally would love to see him at some point returning to Barrage to retell this story, I think that understandably you should focus on one thing at a time. I mean, I'm just one example, but I've been working on so many series for so long, just trying to write them, let alone even seeing if they'll stick. But if you just try to focus on one thing for a little bit, sometimes that will click, and then you'll be able to actually try some other options. Now, some series creators can do multiple series, like Kaname Shirahama, or basically everyone, a whole bunch of people that I actually follow, but that's not for everyone. And I think that him focusing on My Hero Academia has honestly been something that has worked well for him, and he's loved writing it. You can tell just from the effort that he puts in. He mentions in the book that before COVID happened, he and his team actually sat down together and worked on these projects together in a studio, bouncing ideas off of each other, and honestly, that is awesome to see. And I think that that was something that actually really made him enjoy this series. To enjoy My Hero Academia much more than many of us really would have expected. And honestly, I'm glad that he found his thing in My Hero. And sure, absolutely, I would love to see Barrage get more. At this point, just checking it out, I think, is a good option. Picking up Barrage and just reading the chapters, read through the series, get the first 2 volumes, and I guess the only 2 volumes, and just reading through them, I think is going to be a lot of help. And if people do talk about it and say, hey, maybe at some point you should return to this series, maybe at some point he will. I know I'm mostly focused on a lot of the behind the scenes aspects of this series, but I honestly don't want to spoil this series too much. There's just so much that happens just within this first volume, and considering the fact that this is one half of the entire series, if I were to go over everything that happened in it, then I'd be spoiling it, and I really don't want to. I want you guys to actually pick up this series and read it yourself, because it truly is an amazing story. And also you can just tell how nerdy frickin' Horikoshi is. He's done a lot of really cool stuff in the past, and this is a really good example of that. So, yeah. If that's all I can say, show Barrage some love. Read it, and maybe tell people how you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, because that's basically all you can do right now. And maybe after My Hero is done, maybe Horikoshi will return to this and find a new love for it. But we don't know. And we'll have to wait and see what comes next. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell. If you are gonna, if you have any thoughts or theories, please leave them down in the comments below. If you are gonna leave a theory, make sure to say theory review somewhere in a comment. And of course, if you guys do want to support the channel even more, then definitely head down to the description and check out all of our links down there, including our social medias, our other channels, and ways you can support us financially, including the merch store, the book, and of course, our Patreon, which a big thank you to our current patron, Sheeny. But anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys next time. But on!